Hey friends, welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I know you're busy and I know your to-do list is giving you the side eye right now, especially if you're joining me for hopefully what is the third time's a charm. But listen, if you ever thought, how do I stay connected to my partner when life is a never-ending treadmill of work, goals, and responsibilities, then congratulations, you are in the right place today. So let's have a little bit of some engagement here. Even though we can't have an active chat, what I want you to do is just drop a hands up in the chat if you have, or in the comments, if you have ever felt like your relationship gets the leftovers of your energy after work gets the main course. Has that ever happened to you? Is that happening to you right now? It absolutely happens to me. So today we're going to talk about one simple thing that can change everything, and that's bids for connection. So relationship expert and researcher John Gottman, who has spent literally decades, his entire professional career, studying what makes love last, says that the biggest predictor of relationship success isn't these grand romantic gestures. It's how we respond to tiny everyday moments where our partner is asking for our attention, our validation, and connection. And it's these little moments, these bids for connection that happen all of the time. And I bet that you're missing more than you realize. And I feel pretty safe saying that because even though I have studied John Gottman for years and I know all about bids for connection, I miss them all the time, especially when we're busy, especially when the world around us is chaotic and crazy and we're feeling overwhelmed. We miss those. We're even in the best of times when we're busy, we're, trying to build a career, and our bandwidth for these deep meaning connections is just running on fumes. So I get it. But this is a relationship hack that is easy to get. So what is a bid for connection? Let's dive into that a little bit. A bid is any attempt by your partner to get your attention, your affection, or support. And no, it doesn't come with flashing lights or a neon sign or sirens going off. They're not as obvious as that, right? But here's what it looks like. A bid for connection can look like, hey, honey, look at this funny meme. Or it can look like your partner's hand on the small of your back while you're cooking dinner, or a hand on your shoulder while you are responding to an email sitting at the dining room table. It can be, wow, look at the snow falling in the backyard. Look how beautiful that is. Sometimes it can even just look like this really deep sigh at the end of a day. Those are all bids for connection. They're really important in not just romantic relationships, but in any relationship. So if you happen to be listening to this saying, this really isn't for me because I'm not currently in a romantic relationship, you are in relationships all day, every day, from, your friends and your parents or children, the colleagues and your neighbors. They too send you bids for connection. My teenage son makes bids for connection when he wants to, have me listen to some new song he's just discovered or a riff on his guitar that he has just learned. Those are bids for connection. So even if you're not in a romantic relationship, this session right now is for you as well. So when we get those bids for connection, we have a choice to make. That's the moment of where we have a choice. Now, Gottman discovered through his years of research that the most successful couples turn towards a bid for connection, so they notice it and respond to it, 86% of the time. 86%. That's a pretty high percentage. It's not a perfect percentage, right? We don't have to be perfect at it. There are going to be times where we miss it, But for successful couples, 86% of the time, we notice and turn towards a bid for connection. For struggling couples, it's only about 33%. Now, turning towards doesn't mean that you have to drop everything and write a sonnet or take the day off of work, for this big, long, romantic date. It just means that you acknowledge it in the moment or as close to the moment as you can. So then what it looks like is when your partner says, hey, look at this hilarious dog meme or this, TikTok that cracked me up, that instead of just ignoring it or maybe giving it a half grunt, you scoot a little bit closer on the couch for a moment and say, show me, I want to see it, and share that laugh with them. It's 30 seconds. It's just that easy. Or when your partner says, after you've both gotten home from work, oh, today was so frustrating. It was the worst day. Trust me, I literally just said this to my husband upstairs because, as you know, we were having audio trouble with this live. Today has been so frustrating. And instead of saying, oh, yeah, oh, that's too bad. Anyway, picking Tommy up from baseball practice, you stop and say, oh, I'm so sorry. What happened? And really look at them in the eye and wait for them to tell you what happened. And if in that moment you actually don't have the time, maybe you do have the next meeting you need to run to, you can say, I'm really sorry that you're having such a terrible day. I want to make sure that at the end of the day we connect. After we put dinner in the oven or Tommy gets picked up from practice, let's sit down on the couch for a few minutes. I want to hear about why your day was so frustrating. Those little moments where you say, I see you, actually has a really big impact. So little moments, big impact. If you're still here with me, what I want you to do is drop a light bulb in the comments or in the chat. If you've just realized that maybe you've missed a few bids lately. And no judgment. We've all done it. I mean, I still do it all the time. Actually, in preparing for this, I realized that I had been missing a bid, or at least not responding to bids for connection. And I'll share that with you. Several times a week, I'll get emails from my husband, and it's just a link to an article. No text. He doesn't say anything in the email. It's just a link. And most of the time, that article is about resilience or workplace well-being or mental health in the legal space. All of the things I care a lot about in my profession. Now, is he expecting me to necessarily drop everything that I'm doing and read that article right then and there? Probably not. Sometimes I have time to read them. Sometimes I don't. I always think to myself, oh, that was nice, or I want to read that. But a lot of times, most of the time, I fail to quickly respond and say, thanks, babe, for that email. Thank you for sharing that with me. Because him sending me that isn't necessarily about giving me more information. I mean, it is a little bit, but really what it's saying is, hey, Renee, between all of my client calls and the email that I have to write and this deliverable that I have to do, you're on my mind. And I thought about you, and I saw something that reminded me of you, and I want to share that with you. So that's a bid for connection that I don't want to let go by me. So in the moment, if I can, to respond to the email, just with a simple, thanks for thinking of me, sweetie. Or at the end of the day, say, I can't wait to read that article when I get a chance to tonight, or however that response might be. So we all miss from time to time, even those of us who are really knocking it out of the park, right? The knocking it out of the park is still 86%. And, that's 14% of the time you're going to miss. So why this matters for busy professionals? By the way, busy professionals, is there any professional that's not busy? We're all busy, right? Here's the truth. Most of us are not losing connection with our partners because there's some massive, dramatic relationship breakdown. Sometimes that can happen, and the fix takes a lot more than improving some bids for connection. But most of us are losing it in just the tiny moments where we unintentionally miss those bids for connection. We unintentionally say, you don't matter to me as much as this next email or this meeting that I'm rushing off to or this client who is demanding my attention. So how do we fix it? We fix it in 3 really simple steps that take virtually no time. The first is just to notice the bid. Notice that it's out there. Your partner is throwing you little lifelines, relationship lifelines, all day long. I also like to think of it as little butterflies. Right? These bids of connection are like butterflies kind of floating all around us. And sometimes they go by, but if we have our butterfly net and really try and pay attention, look up from our screens, pay attention to the butterflies and pull them in towards us. And we can make a game of it, right? How many bids for connection, those little butterflies, can you spot and catch today? And the second thing, once you do notice those, catch them and respond, even if it's small, even in a small way. You don't have to stop what you're doing. Just acknowledge them. Give a nod, make eye contact, give a quick tell me more or a rub on the back. Those quick moments say, I recognize you and I see you. And don't underestimate that. The third thing is that don't underestimate those small interactions. We think that relationships too often thrive on the big things, the vacations and the gifts and those, deep hours-long conversations. And those are great, right? Those are important. I'm not saying that they're not important, but it's really about those tiny daily moments that actually matter. My husband's actually really good at reminding me of that as well. Over the holidays, we had all 5 of our kids here with us, and we did a lot of big things. We took a trip and went to some fancy dinners, but we realized that because Tim mentioned it, he said the best times, the most important times were when we were just sitting around the living room, watching a movie together or commenting on, something funny that we had seen on our, on someone's TikTok, or just joking around, spending time cooking a meal together. Those little interactions mattered more than the big grand gestures. So if you think of it, you can kind of think of your relationship like you think of a bank account. Okay, so we've got butterflies and butterfly nets, and now let's think of pennies in a piggy bank. You can use whichever metaphor works for you best. But every time you turn toward a bid, you're putting a penny in that piggy bank. You're making a deposit. And that deposit is what makes over time, your relationship rich. If you ignore enough bids, however, suddenly you're in emotional overdraft, right? You're not able to get either one of you what you need. You're feeling a little bereft. You have maybe now all of a sudden you're the one who is making bids for connection, but there's nothing left in the piggy bank, right, to draw from. So a question that I want you to think about is, what's one way that your partner bids for connection that you're realizing that maybe you need to notice more? So for me, mine was, I need to let my husband know that I notice those emails more than I do. And I not only notice it, but I notice the meaning behind it, that it's about, hey, I'm thinking of you. And if you have an answer to that, if you can think of some things, I would love it if you would drop it in the comments, because the more that you share, that might trigger someone else to think, oh yeah, that happens with my partner. My partner does the same thing. I never even noticed it as a bid for connection. So in that conversation, we can kind of help lift each other up and help each other grab those bids for connection. All right, let's take this home. If you want to stay connected in this busy season and in this season of overwhelm, right? Don't wait for the big moments. Win with the small ones. Notice the bids and then respond. And remember that connection isn't built on grand gestures. It's built in those 1,000 tiny little moments where we say, I see you. And here's an added bonus. I was going to say added little bonus, but it's actually an added big bonus. Not only does it strengthen your relationship when you say to your partner, I see you, it actually does something for both of your emotional regulation and nervous systems, particularly during times where we are feeling frazzled, we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling stressed out about the world around us. When someone says, I see you, it allows us to drop our shoulders a little bit. It allows us to regulate our own nervous systems. And so not only is it deepening the relationship with our partners, it's improving our own individual well-being and the well-being of the person that we love. So here's a challenge for you. For the next 24 hours, and if you really want to challenge yourself, maybe between now and after Valentine's Day, but let's just start with the next 24 hours. I want you to see how many bids for connection that you can catch. How many butterflies in the butterfly net or pennies in the piggy bank that you can gather and then turn toward. And I would love if you would let me know how it goes. Again, your experience, if you're able to share it, can help others. So if this resonated, here's what to do next. Follow me for more insights on thriving in your career and in your relationships, if you don't follow me already. And tag someone. If there's someone in your life, a colleague, a partner, who needs to hear this today, maybe it is your partner who's like, I think they need to listen to and pick up on some bids for connection. Tag them and share this with them. And then finally, drop a comment. Let's continue this conversation. What's one thing that you're planning on taking away from this? So, big love to you all on this Valentine's Day weekend. Go turn towards those bids today. Thank you, thank you, thank you if you were sticking with me on the first, second, third time's a charm in getting this live to work. I can't wait to see you next time, hopefully minus the glitches. Take good care. I'll be thinking of you. Bye.